Welcome back to Inspiration Education.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Today's episode is called Learning in the Moment. And so we would like for you to look for ways in which we gave our 9 high school girls on this, we're still on the summer trip.
Still on summer trip. Don't worry.
We'll get there, we promise. There's lots of stuff. We've been recording lots of stuff in our classrooms, but we feel like we ought to wrap this up. And actually, I was thinking that next summer when we do this, this will be our content in the summertime, so that when school starts, you'll have classroom content to look at right away. But anyway, look for examples in here of how students are learning in the moment.
Oftentimes, we as teachers, we want to control everything in our classroom, whether it's talking up front or just giving them X, Y, and Z to do. But we pose to you that the more opportunities we give our students to direct the learning by being in the moment, there's all sorts of things to talk about with that, but there's something special about student ownership. And
there's more buy-in.
More buy-in. It's more meaningful, intentional. They remember it better.
Yes.
And so we'll talk about that. We'll unpack that a little bit more once we debrief.
Yeah, but your goal for the next, I think it's like 8 minutes or so, is where do you see basically student-centered learning, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll be back.
Yay.
Oh man.
Can't wait to tell the girls about the history of this particular spot right here.
Yeah, this particular spot.
This particular spot. This is Point Lobos. We're on a little mini nature hike. The girls decided to do the nature hike now while the marine layer is still there. And then hopefully the sun will pop out when we go to the beach.
The trees and stuff.
I know. Look at these cuties. Honeysuckle.
And we should keep going so we can get you guys enough.
It's like ocotillos.
Too bad you got gum in there.
Really?
Hey, gum and honey is the best thing ever. Don't you know?
Uh-oh.
What are we supposed to eat?
Can you taste it?
Anyway, the interesting thing on all plants in terms of identification is hardly ever the flower, it's the leaf, and you can see the leaves here particularly. Same with the, you know, you're not looking.
Cool.
A docent on the trail.
And the flower is this. The thing that I'm touching is the flower. You have something different.
Yeah,
we call this the seaside.
innately divided leaves.
So I'm not supposed to pick leaves, but so it's just an ordinary looking leaf, right? Now what does it look like?
A little lizard.
Right. So what do you think this plant's called?
Oh, lizardweed.
This is lizard tail.
Yeah. So in Arizona, ours is called burro, B-U-R-R-O.
Right.
Burrowweed.
But if you look at it this way, it's just a leaf. But when you turn it over, it
looks
really
like
does
a
all of a
lizard.
sudden look like a. Excuse me. It does all of a sudden look like a
That's
lizard.
great.
Wow.
Well, we smelled the dried flowers. It smells just like chamomile. She said, "Oh, it looks like chamomile."
Right. Right. And you were called in.
Education alert.
Education alert.
We have sent the girls into this historical building right here and said, go find out why Point Lobos, and specifically this harbor, is important in history. So we shall see what they find out.
And there's multiple things, actually.
Yeah. The best way to learn is to find out yourself. You'll remember it that way.
Hashtag
Teacher alert.
nerd alert.
Nerd alert.
You're gone, and you're gone. And what happens to you?
Am I growing back?
And while they were so many of them, imagine what you've seen what a forest looks like after a forest fire with just sticks and whatever. What they call that in your case is a kelp barren. And so there'd be no waving. You'd just be a stick, a black stick. It's actually quite amazing. But now that you're back, the fish can come back, right? So who caused the problem in the first place? Who was unhappy when the fish were all gone? Who was unhappy when the fish were all gone?
The people who caused the problem in the first place?
Exactly. They eat 25% of their weight per day. So I'm guessing that some or all of you are maybe 80 pounds. You don't have to tell me, and that's not the issue. Well, in fact, we'll even pick 60 pounds, because nobody's 60 pounds, because that's about how much a sea otter will weigh. So the question is, how many quarter-pound hamburgers would you have to eat if you were 60 pounds per day
To equal
what a sea otter eats?
which was how much per day?
25% of its weight.
How many quarter pounders would you have to eat?
Well, 15 pounds.
That's a lot of hamburger.
60. Yeah. I was like, that's backwards math. It just goes back around.
That's exactly what it is.
These cute little guys down there are
Harbor seals.
harbor seals.
And what makes them a seal and not a sea lion?
They do not have external ear flaps.
And
They have short little legs, and they only they waddle. They don't walk like a sea lion does.
right, they wobble.
Wobble, baby, wobble.
Wobble. They're super slick. It's amazing.
Their eyes are huge. They're literally like cartoons.
No. Gone in 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's it.
Donnie.
Go.
Lowrider. Donnie, lowrider. Oh, that's right. Are we recording?
We are.
We're ready now. Welcome
my
back. Same
goodness.
position.
5 seconds later, here we are.
She'd like to point out that I'm wearing a Saints t-shirt, by the way.
Yeah, please don't hate us if you're not a Saints. I was like, you know we're recording today, right? And you're wearing a Saint
Oh,
shirt.
yeah.
Way to go. Alienating our audience right off the bat.
Can't be very funny. Come on. Anyway, hope you liked that. A lot of fun things in that. A lot of fun stories from that video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Where to start?
Yeah, so I feel like sometimes we're afraid to learn from a stranger. You know, you're when you're out there in the world, it's okay sometimes. Information can come from anybody if it's a credible source, of course. Yeah. And in this situation, we were able to put our students in a position where you met the docent, you saw the docent there, and they met this person, and obviously, you know, he's credible in the field that he's working in, and so they were able to listen to him and gain valuable information, and that was total serendipity.
Serendipity.
Thank you. We didn't know he was going to be there at all, and so for example, like one of the students, she was in the purple shirt. She super loves plants. Oh my gosh! And so you could see in the video how she was like watching and listening to everything that he had to say.
Yeah. And when we weren't filming, by the way, she was asking him questions and interacting with him. And so she was leading that discussion, if you will. And that interested her. You know, the others were kind of, they were okay with it, and they were kind of listening and being polite. But she glommed onto that and was the one who really, and then after the fact, led the way in helping other girls. I remember that later on in the trip, she was showing plants to other girls at other locations. It was really cool.
She was teaching me things, which I thought was really cool.
Yep, she sure did.
So,
Then in the house that we sent them into.
Yeah.
So so Cassie introduced what I like to call a provocation. So we're giving you an opportunity to go discover on your own, what would it look like if you found X? Or I think, trying to remember what you said in the video, is like, go find some of the different events that happened in this cabin and go at it. And
the best way to learn is to just figure it out for yourself, rather than, you know, as a teacher, we like to we almost like to not be okay with silence. You know, if the student is quiet, then you think, well, maybe they don't know the answer. You don't want them to feel uncomfortable. And so you'll quickly give them the answer. Or it's because we know the answer and we want to, you know, be stupid and like, we know all the answers. and
Sometimes I
give
have
it.
to sit on my hands and not give too much away too early.
Yeah, but it's okay to have a quiet moment in your classroom and let your kids actually think about the answer, because one of the rules that we both live by is that whoever is doing the talking is one that's actually doing the learning. So if you're the one, then who's really doing any learning there?
Right. So, for instance, an example in my classroom this week, I have come to a point where I won't lecture anymore. I do not want to lecture because of that reason. So I flipped my classroom for the first time in my biology classroom, and the first time ever. I had the kids watch some videos online, and then I offered a provocation to them this week, an essential question, a driving question that we're going to use laboratory and research, and then have a Socratic seminar to answer that question. So that's a larger driving question, but as Cassie said, sometimes it could be just a small provocation question that happens in the moment. You're like, oh, I'm going to ask them this. And then it generates discussion amongst the kids, or they want to go do their own research or whatever that is.
Yeah, so try to be okay with letting the student drive the instruction, because they're going to own it, and
They want to learn what they're interested about.
Exactly.
Right, and then it just has a trickle-down effect on what they're doing.
So I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that we want to cover. I don't know. I think so. I think we kind of
got it.
Yeah, that learning can come from anywhere.
Can.
And so don't be afraid to...
Especially your students. Learning can come from anywhere. Think about that, especially from your own students. So look for those chances in your classroom where they're telling you what they want to learn about. Okay.
All right. So hopefully you got a couple takeaways out of that, and we will see you next week.
Okay. Bye. So Cassie was asking me about my harbor seal experiences. One time at Catalina Island, I dropped down, got to about 30 feet. And out of nowhere, I mean, it was literally right after my descent, a little harbor seal came up to me and kind of just like did this, and then it was gone. And I'm like, did that little guy just like me? Kinda, yeah, or just like a
little more than a hug.
But it was a hug, and I'm like, did that just happen? And then the other time, this is kind of the fun one. I was diving the Yukon in San Diego, and I'm at like 90 feet, 48-degree water, coldest dive I've ever been on. Woo. And out of the gloom, I see and my heart went, what was that? Large shadow. and so out of my peripheral vision, I see something come up to me. And then in my mask, literally like this, is like, whoop.
Ooh, that freaks me out.
And then it went, blew a couple bubbles, and then went, whoop. It was gone.
Oh my God.
So they do, a harbor seal, they do that. They like to come up to your mask and go, with their little puppy dog face, and blow bubbles, and then they're gone.
And it was a sea lion.
Yeah, it was a seal.
Wow.
Yeah, it was super cute.
That's so cool.
But it was crazy because at first I thought, shark. Shark.
That's cool.